Hey guys, Hannah Bell, family law and estate planning lawyer, here with today's pro tip. This one's about communication, how to do it, when to do it, what to do, etc., particularly in the context of the divorce process. And listen, this one is something you may not think about as you're going through it unless you sort of zoom out for a second and try to be a little bit more strategic or a lot more strategic about how you're communicating with your X factor while the divorce stuff is going on. Okay, so um, generally speaking, when you're married to someone, you are used to husband wife or spouse communication. Basically, if you text them, you're pretty much expecting them to answer right away in 10 minutes if they're in a meeting or something, in an hour or whatever. But generally speaking, you get really used to, sometimes over years and years and years, this instant access communication. Question, response, or else, hey, where are you? What you doing? And why aren't you answering me? What are we going to have for dinner? Are you going to stop by the store? What about this? What about that? And you're used to this back and forth. And that becomes your default. Now, when you're getting divorced, generally speaking, that's your internal default. When your future ex, your X factor, communicates with you, you're used to communicating instantaneously right back. And you feel this sort of deeply ingrained habitual need to answer, to say something back. But you got to cut that out. All right, stop. It is super duper important that you don't have those rash communications back and forth that you've been used to. I want you to reframe how you think about that communication. Instead of husband, wife, or spouse, you're now in more like business to business communication, right? So rather than, now let me give a caveat. If it's about your kids and it's time sensitive, this does not apply. You need to answer a lot more quickly than what you would as a business. So okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about general negotiations. I'm talking about things about kids that don't have to be answered right this exact minute. But you need to think in terms of, I'll get back to you in 1 to 2 business days in your response when your ex communicates with you. And what this does is creates this boundary and retrains this person in how to deal with you. Like, look, one of the benefits of getting divorced is you don't have to talk back and forth to this person all the time. And maybe you'd been in one of these relationships, very likely if you're getting divorced, there was real bicker, back and forth. You're used to back and forth. You got to stop it. And the way I try to explain to clients is, look, we have to think carefully. Think about it like when you're buying a house, okay? Whenever somebody, submits an offer and there's a counter offer, you don't do it right away in this exact moment. You think about what you're going to say, about your overall strategy, and you develop a response because every word you say is going to impact negotiations. That's exactly what happens in the divorce process. You're negotiating two entities, business to business, back and forth with each other. And I try to tell clients, look, think about every extra word that you say, or if you say it too quickly, as dollars floating out of your mouth, either into the abyss, into my pocket, or into his pocket. So part of this is so that you don't say rash things that I have to deal with later, and to retrain them of like, this is going to be a professional interaction. This is not going to be crazy, and to save you some heartache and give you time to think. So whenever you're responding to the ex and they've maybe, let's say they made a deal or they need to know about what you're going to do about the storage building or whatever. If later it's ever coming up in court and a judge is looking at some emails or texts and you waited from Thursday to Friday, Thursday 8 a.m. to Friday afternoon to answer, that's still on paper 1 day difference. And that don't sound like very much time unless it's about a kid emergency. It's a long time. But it's okay and desirable because and this is, I hate saying this, but it's just the nature of family law. If it's contentious, like in the sort of things I'm usually dealing with, very different if this is one of those like y'all get along and it would be ideal. This doesn't apply to you if you can like work it out and be reasonable adults. Okay, but this is for the rest of people, which is like a majority of people getting divorced. Um, you you have to think in terms of every piece of information that I give the other party is something that can be used against me. Like one of the biggest mistakes women make because they're used to confiding in and dealing with this person as their husband, okay? Husband and wife communications. They just like start telling him every single thing they're afraid of, their number one most important thing when getting divorced, the thing they've got to have, numbers they've got to walk away with. And guess what? That guy ain't going to tell you the same thing. Or if he does, more than likely he's lying to you. Because generally speaking, guys are better at getting divorced than women are. That's a very overbroad generalization, but it's kind of true. Okay. So they're not going to tell you or arm you with their fears, their worries, their thing they have to need. Because then they have leverage, they have power over you because they know the thing that you can't live without, and they're going to make you pay for it in dollars, in time, in assets, whatever, frustration, heartache, lots of things. They're going to make you pay for that. And so don't go telling everything that you know. This is no longer your confidant husband that you look to. Y'all are two entities brokering a deal. And if you give them that information, you can't ever get it back. Like, oh, I really care that I have the exclusive rights on school because I really want the kids to go to this school, but at my house for this reason. And maybe that's true. But don't tell the other side that. Okay? Because then it's just sort of a general life principle, right? The more someone knows that you want something, the less likely they are to give it to you. Like, have y'all learned that yet? Right? Sort of like think about it. When you really feel, if you're interviewing someone, they really, really want a job and it feels a little bit desperate, you're less likely to give them that job or give them that thing they want. It's just human nature. Like, why do you want it so bad? No, you can't have it. I want it now because it must be valuable because you want it. So try to say less and try to say it slower. I guess that's probably the best way to put this. Say less slower in the divorce process. Tell the thing you need to say to your lawyer, have them help you think about it, reflect, draft that response. You're going to have something real good to say. Draft it and do not, as a matter of course, let yourself respond like minimum within like 3 hours to basically anything that's not a kid emergency. And I would say wait a lot longer than that, 1 to 2 business days before you respond. And the other thing that I guess I should say is not every statement, question, allegation deserves a response. And in fact, when it comes to the deal terms, if y'all are not getting along and just kind of working out a deal, but y'all are in a fight, okay, most things don't deserve a response. Husbands and wife, they owe them each other, generally speaking, in most relationships, answers. But when this person, you have to think of them like your foe, okay? They're your enemy, at least for a little while. And I hate that. It just is. They're your enemy for a little while. Just because they ask you something or they want to know something doesn't mean you have to tell them. Okay, that's like numero uno amazing benefit to being divorced is that person can ask you questions and you don't have to answer if they're inappropriate, none of their business, not going to help you, etc. You can just not answer, and that's a hugely powerful thing to keep in mind. Okay, so this is sort of a broad topic. I really swear I could go on forever, and it is so hard with my ladies to get this through their heads. This guy no longer has instant access to you, period. And if he's calling on the phone and wanting to talk or wanting to yell at you or pulling those same tricks that he did during your marriage, literally don't answer the phone. Basically, you don't ever have to talk to them on the phone. You can write it in an email yourself, a text, something in writing, but don't pick up the telephone. You don't have to. Like, he's not going to call the cops. Or if he does, then he'll look like an idiot. So, get used to, instead of spouse communication, you're thinking more in terms of like business to business communication. And as you give them more information and you tell them more words, I want you to envision dollars, like with little wings, okay? They're flying away. They're flying into somebody else's pocket with every piece of information that you offer. So say less, say it slower, and put up those new boundaries to guard this life that you're working so hard for. It's not it's really not easy, but this is one of the most important pro tips probably I can share with you. So take care.